For years, fans around the world have been waiting for this moment, the moment when Yaman would finally speak openly about what he truly felt for Demet Özdemir. Their story began on the set of Erkenci Kuş, but what happened behind the cameras became even more captivating than the show itself. Every glance, every shared laugh, every improvised scene seemed to hide something real, something that went beyond acting. Back then, Can and Demet were the most adored couple in Turkish television history. Their chemistry was undeniable, a spark that didn't just light up the screen, it set it on fire. Fans couldn't tell where the characters ended and the real emotions began. But as the camera stopped rolling, things got complicated. Fame, pressure, and rumors turned what could have been a beautiful love story into a painful silence. For a long time, Can avoided talking about Demet. Whenever journalists mentioned her name, he smiled politely, changed the subject, or simply walked away. But deep down, something remained unresolved, a truth he never dared to share. Until now. In a recent interview that stunned everyone, Can finally opened his heart. His voice trembled slightly, his eyes betrayed emotions he could no longer hide. "There are things you live once," he said softly. "And even if time passes, some feelings, they never really go away." The audience fell silent. It was clear he wasn't talking about just any memory, he was talking about her. About Demet. What followed was not a publicity stunt, not a rehearsed statement, but a genuine confession. Can spoke about how working with Demet had changed him, how she brought light to his most chaotic days, how her laughter made long shooting hours feel like seconds, and how their connection was so natural that even the director often let scenes run longer just to capture their real emotions. He admitted that something between them had always been real. "We had a connection that can't be faked," he said. "No script could ever create what we had." As those words spread across social media, fans all over the world felt the same chill. For years, they had suspected it. For years, they had analyzed every glance, every behind-the-scenes clip, every interview. And now, finally, Can had said it himself. But that was only the beginning. Because what he revealed next would make everyone realize just how deep those feelings still run. When the camera stopped rolling on Erkenci Kuş, everything changed. Demet and Can, once inseparable on set, began to distance themselves in public. It wasn't because the feelings had vanished, but because fame had taken control of their lives. The world wanted them to be together, yet the same world made it impossible for them to breathe. Can admitted that during those months, he felt trapped between what his heart wanted and what his career demanded. "We were under a microscope," he said. Every smile, every gesture was analyzed. And when something becomes that public, it loses its purity. Demet, too, had been asked countless times about Can. She often smiled gently, answering with phrases like "we had great chemistry," or "he's a professional." But behind that calm surface, there was more, emotions she carefully hid from the cameras. Friends close to her later revealed that she often avoided watching old episodes because it felt too real. Can confessed that there were moments he wanted to call her, especially after the series ended. "There were days when I'd pick up the phone," he said, "but I never pressed call. I didn't know what to say, or maybe I was afraid of what I'd feel if I heard her voice again." He paused, his eyes lowering to the ground, his tone softer now. "Sometimes," he whispered, "silence says more than words." Those who watched the interview could feel the pain behind that sentence. It wasn't bitterness, it was nostalgia, mixed with regret. A man who had everything, yet still carried the ghost of a love he couldn't forget. When asked if he still thought about her, Can smiled faintly. "You don't forget someone who marked your soul," he said. "You learn to live with the memory." It was the kind of line that struck deep into the hearts of fans. Social media exploded, #Kenyaman #Demet Özdemir trended once again, years after Erkenci Kuş ended. Old clips resurfaced, their improvised dance scenes, the look they shared after a kiss, the behind-the-scenes laughter that everyone now saw in a different light. And just as everyone thought the confession was over, Can surprised everyone once more. He took a deep breath, leaned forward, and said something no one expected. "There was a night I'll never forget, the night I realized what she truly meant to me." That single sentence changed the tone completely. It wasn't just nostalgia anymore, it was a story about what could have been, and perhaps what still is. "The night I'll never forget," Ken began, his voice low, almost breaking. "It was after one of our last days of shooting. Everyone had left, the set was empty, and only Demet and I stayed behind. We didn't say much, just sat there in silence, surrounded by the remains of a world we had built together for months. It felt like something was ending, but at the same time, something real was beginning." He described how the studio lights were dim, and there was a soft rain outside, hitting the windows gently. "She was tired," he said, "but she looked beautiful, the kind of beauty you don't notice at first, the kind that only comes when you really know someone." They talked about how much their lives had changed, how fast everything was moving, how fame could both bless and destroy. "We laughed, we complained, we remembered the first day we met," he recalled. "And then, there was this silence. The kind that says more than any word." For a brief moment, they just looked at each other. No cameras, no lights, no audience, just two people who knew that something inside them had shifted forever. "I wanted to tell her everything," Ken admitted. "But I didn't. Because I thought maybe, it was better to keep it sacred, to leave it untouched." His voice cracked slightly as he continued, "If I had said something that night, maybe things would have been different. Maybe she would have stayed a little longer, or maybe I wouldn't have left Turkey so suddenly." When the interviewer asked what stopped him, Ken sighed. "Fear," he answered. "Not of her, but of myself. I wasn't ready to be vulnerable in front of someone who could actually see me." That sentence hit hard, even the interviewer paused, realizing the depth of his words. Ken then spoke about the following weeks. How they wrapped up filming, how they hugged goodbye at the wrap party, how he tried to act normal while feeling completely torn inside. "When she left that night," he said quietly, "I watched her walk away. And something inside me knew that it was the beginning of a silence that would last for years." Fans later commented that this was the first time they had seen him so open, so fragile. The man who always looked confident, strong, unshakable, was now speaking like someone who had lost something irreplaceable. And perhaps that's what made it so powerful. It wasn't just about love, it was about timing, fate, and the cruel beauty of what happens when two people meet too soon or too late. But the story didn't end there. Because just when everyone thought it was over, Ken revealed that he had seen Demet again, years later, in the most unexpected way. Years had passed since that unforgettable night. Ken's career had exploded, Italy, Spain, and half of Europe had fallen in love with him. He was filming, traveling, smiling for cameras, yet deep inside, something was missing. Every city he visited, every hotel room he stayed in, carried the same quiet thought, would she even recognize me now? Demet, too, had moved on with her life. New projects, red carpets, a wedding, then a separation, everything seemed perfect on the outside. But every time her name appeared next to Ken's in headlines, fans couldn't help but feel that something between them had never really ended. And then, fate decided to play its cruel trick. Ken recalled how, one evening in Istanbul, he attended a private event organized by mutual friends. He didn't expect to see her there. "It was one of those nights," he said, "where you just go because you don't want to disappoint anyone." And then, she walked in. The audience gasped as he described the moment. "She hadn't changed," he whispered. "Maybe she was even more beautiful, but it wasn't about that. It was the way she looked at me, like time had stopped. Like nothing had changed at all." They didn't speak immediately. The crowd around them was loud, the music was playing, but it all faded in that single second when their eyes met. Ken said, "It felt like years of silence were suddenly standing between us, heavy, unspoken, but still full of everything we never said." After a while, she smiled, the same smile that once melted every wall between them. And he smiled back, unable to do anything else. "It wasn't awkward," he explained, "it was peaceful. As if we both finally accepted that what we had was real, even if it couldn't last." Later that night, they talked briefly. Small things, memories, a few jokes. It was short, he said, but it was enough. Enough to remind me that some people never really leave you. He admitted that after she left the event, he stood outside for a long time, looking at the city lights, thinking about how strange love can be. You can love someone, he said, not to possess them, but simply to be grateful they existed in your story. It was a confession that silenced the room. No drama, no bitterness, just truth. The kind of truth that comes after years of pain, reflection, and acceptance. People always ask me if I still love her, Ken said, pausing with a faint smile. But love, it changes shape. It doesn't disappear. It becomes something quieter, purer. Maybe that's what I feel now, not longing, but peace. As the interview ended, fans knew they had just witnessed something rare, a man finally letting go, but never forgetting. The kind of love story that doesn't need a happy ending to be unforgettable. When the lights of the studio dimmed and the interview came to an end, there was a silence, the kind that stays with you long after the words fade away. Ken sat there for a few seconds, not as the actor everyone adored, but as a man who had just opened his heart to the world. He didn't try to hide the emotion in his eyes, he didn't force a smile. For the first time in years, he looked free. Outside, the headlines exploded. Yaman finally speaks about Demet Özdemir. Clips from the interview spread like wildfire. Fans from Turkey to Italy flooded social media with old photos, behind-the-scenes clips, and emotional comments. Some cried, others wrote that they finally understood that the connection between Ken and Demet was never just fiction. It was something real, fragile, and human. Demet, on her side, stayed quiet. But those who know her say she watched the interview alone, late at night, with the lights off. And for a long moment, she just smiled, that same soft, bittersweet smile she used to have whenever he made her laugh on set. No words were needed. Sometimes silence says everything. People always talk about love stories that end with a kiss, a wedding, or a promise. But the truth is, some of the most powerful stories end in silence, in memories that never fade, in feelings that survive distance and time. For Yaman and Demet Özdemir, maybe that's what it was all along, not a fairy tale, but something deeper. A connection that didn't belong to the cameras, the magazines, or the fans. Something that existed only between two hearts that once recognized each other, and perhaps still do. And as Ken left the studio that night, one of the crew members said they saw him glance at his phone, take a deep breath, and smile faintly before walking away. No one knows what went through his mind, whether it was a memory, a regret, or a quiet thank you whispered to someone who would never hear it. But one thing was clear, this wasn't the end of a love story. It was the beginning of peace. Because sometimes, loving someone means letting them go, yet never letting go of what they made you feel.